I'm Delaney, and this is Twice as Good! Today, we're visiting one of the most magnificent natural wonders in North America, Niagara Falls, to learn about the falls and the culinary traditions of the surrounding area. Niagara Falls is actually the collective name for 3 separate waterfalls that span the border between Canada and the United States. On the Canadian side of the falls is the province of Ontario, which is where we are standing right now. The American side runs along the northern border of New York State, and we'll be visiting there a bit later. Niagara Falls form the southern tip of the Niagara Gorge, which is part of the Niagara River. Horseshoe Falls is the largest. Located mostly in Canada, it's the most powerful waterfall in North America. The American Falls, the second largest, and the Bridal Veil Falls, the smallest, are both on the U.S. side of the border. Between the Horseshoe Falls and the American Falls, you'll find Goat Island. The Tesla Monument, dedicated to scientist Nikola Tesla, is located on Goat Island to honor his designing the first hydroelectric power plant for Niagara Falls. The American Falls and Bridal Veil are separated by Luna Island. On today's show, we'll be cooking with Chef de Cuisine Jay Jackson, and we'll learn how regional ingredients and agriculture have shaped the innovative menus of the area. Last season, we learned about the science of maple syrup during our visit to New Hampshire. Today, we're going to visit a Niagara-based vinegar producer to get a lesson on the science of vinegar production, a go-to kitchen staple that can be created from apples, grapes, and many other base elements. And in between recipes today, we'll explore the history, sites, and culture of this region, and we'll learn a little bit more about the science of the waterfalls to give you a real sense of this place and a true taste of Niagara Falls. Just south of Niagara Falls on the U.S. side of the border is Buffalo, New York, which is famous for its iconic buffalo wings. Legend has it that buffalo wings were invented in Buffalo in 1964 at the Anchor Bar. We're meeting with Wing King Drew Cerza, founder of the National Buffalo Wing Festival and master wing maker. Tell us a little bit about the original recipe.
Well, it was back in 1964. It was Teresa Bellissimo, and it was a very simple recipe. It was Frank's Red Hot, which is a cayenne-based pepper sauce, and butter. As simple as that, 2 easy ingredients. And what you do is you take the chicken wings and you can bake them in an oven at about 450 degrees for about 30 minutes, or you can deep fry them at about 375 degrees for about 12 minutes, or you can cook them on the grill too. That's kind of fun as well. So what we're gonna do, Hadley, we already mixed together the Frank's Red Hot with the butter, and we're gonna have you, well, you know what? Why don't you give these to your sister to put in the big bowl? We got about 20 chicken wings, and now you're gonna put the cayenne-based pepper sauce and the butter right in there, pour them right on top. Nicely done. And Delaney, can we see your little chicken wing dance? You got a chicken wing dance for me?
Okay,
Let's
so you
shake
just
those
shake
up
it up
really
like
good.
this?
Yeah. Do you wanna give them a little shake, Hadley? You wanna take them, you wanna try it too?
Sure.
All right, now let's see the Wing King. Here's how the Wing King does it. Now we're gonna take these, and we're gonna pour them right into here. And then we have our chicken wings. And then what we do with this also is we have blue cheese dressing. And if you want to take a chicken wing, you can take a drumstick. And this one here with the 2 bones is called a flat. You can dip it in the blue cheese and take a little bite. And that, girls, is how you make a buffalo chicken wing.
Can you tell us about the barbecue wings?
Yeah, you know, there's always different parts of the country that like to take the chicken wings and put their own regional twist onto it. And down south, barbecue sauce is really big. So a lot of people like to do barbecue sauce. And when you do the barbecue sauce, it tastes a lot better when you cook them on the grill.
When do people eat the most chicken wings?
Well, it's actually Super Bowl Sunday. On Super Bowl Sunday, 1.3 billion, that's billion with a B, chicken wings are eaten alone.
Tell us about your wing festival.
Oh, I'm very proud of the Chicken Wing Festival. It started about 15 years ago right here in Buffalo, New York. We have over 70,000 people, and we invite the best chicken wing restaurants from across the country. It's kind of like our personal big game right here in Buffalo.
What is your secret to great buffalo wings?
You know, it's a pretty simple recipe, Hadley, but I think you got to make them with love. And we call it Buffalo Love. We really take a lot of pride in how we cook our chicken and the amount of sauce and butter we put on them.
The Niagara River connects 2 of the 5 Great Lakes, allowing Lake Erie to empty into Lake Ontario. Niagara Falls was formed when glaciers receded at the end of the Wisconsin glaciation, the last ice age, and water from the newly formed Great Lakes carved a path through the Niagara Escarpment en route to the Atlantic Ocean. Erosion happens when a moving force, like water or wind, repeatedly comes in contact with an inanimate object, even when it's hard as rock. Over the course of time, sometimes many millenniums, the water or wind eventually wears away the stone and earth surrounding it. Erosion has been a factor in shaping the falls for thousands of years, and it continues to have an impact even today. At its steepest point, the elevation of Horseshoe Falls is about 185 feet. This huge drop accounts for Niagara Falls' powerful velocity. The equation used to measure this power combines the vertical height of the falls with the flow rate of the water that passes over them. At the peak of the season, between 600,000 and 700,000 gallons of water flow over the falls every second. This powerful force is harnessed by both Canada and the United States to create vast amounts of hydroelectric power. There are many scenic vantage points to view Niagara Falls. There are even several tunnels behind the falls that give visitors a chance to see the powerful torrent right in front of their eyes. But one of the most memorable ways to see the falls is from the Maid of the Mist, which charts its course across the waters at the base. How close will the boat get to the falls?
Right now, that's the closest we can be. If we go any closer, there are some rocks over there. So that's about, I would say about 200 feet.
How do most people react when they see the falls this close up?
They are very impressed, very impressed.
Do you know how much water travels over the falls?
About this time of the year is when it's at its peak. It's about 2,600 cubic feet a second. Okay, who wants to go on the wheel? Delaney, here you are.
So
This indicates which way the rudder goes, all right? I'll just keep going like this. Now turn to the right, which is to starboard, all right? Keep turning a little bit faster. Your turn. Okay. You're doing very good.
thank you.
Yes.
Windows by Jamie Kennedy takes its name from the vast windows which show off stunning fall views. Windows dishes combine innovative cooking, sustainable agriculture, and locally sourced ingredients. We're honored to be cooking today with Windows Chef de Cuisine, Jay Jackson. So Chef, what are we gonna make for us today?
Today we're gonna make an asparagus and chive shooter. We're just gonna clean the asparagus up a little bit. And if you take an asparagus and you hold it like this and then you push down, it will break. And at that point, that's where the woodiness of the asparagus ends.
What do you put on your asparagus?
Take the egg, crack it in your hand, let the whites run through your fingers, yolk in the bowl. We're gonna add that to our Vita Prep. Then we're gonna take a little bit of Dijon mustard. We'll throw in what we think looks like a tablespoon. So a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then we're just gonna pour in just a touch of vinegar. Nice local vinegar, works very, very well. What those are gonna do is they're gonna help emulsify our dressing. Chop up a bunch of chives for me. They don't have to be perfect, just chopped up, and we're gonna throw those in
How
afterwards.
small do you want them?
That's perfect. Now, then we're gonna add a little bit of oil at a time. So what we're trying to do is mix those together so that they don't separate. So we're just gonna add this very slowly. So now I'm gonna add a little bit of cider vinegar because I can hear by the sound of the blender that it's thickening up a bit. And so we'll add a little bit of vinegar to loosen that out.
Now is it time for the chive?
Yep, just throw them all in there.
Oh, this is gonna have a nice spicy flavor.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run the blender on high for a minute. We're gonna use the chives to get the flavor and the color of this right. We're just gonna put a little bit of water in here, a little bit of salt.
How do we know when the asparagus is ready?
It'll take about 3 minutes, and we're just gonna leave them on a rag just for the water to come off of them. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna add a little bit of salt.
And then maybe we should pour these while we're waiting for them to cool down.
Yep.
That's good.
And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take 3 pieces of asparagus, and we're gonna put 3 asparagus in each little glass. So that's our first dish.
Let's try it. This is so good. This is amazing. The flavor is really good. Vinegar was an important ingredient in our last dish, and many of the recipes we prepare on Twice as Good. Vinegar is a product of the process of fermentation. The word vinegar itself refers to a double and sometimes triple step process in which a base carbohydrate such as the sugar in wine or apple cider is transformed first into an alcohol and finally into the acidic liquid we know as vinegar. Fermentation occurs when a living organism, such as yeast, is introduced to the carbohydrate base. As the yeast consumes the carbohydrate, it excretes acetic liquid. Here comes the Niagara vinegar, where Chris Herder is going to walk us through the steps of making the region's iconic vinegar.
Here at Niagara Vinegar, we use acetators to make our vinegar. We use a stock of either wine or fruit juice or beer or anything with an alcohol content. It's a French process which takes alcohol and changes it into acetic acid with acetobacters. Acetobacters live on oxygen bubbles and eat ethanol as food in order to produce acetic acid, which is the byproduct.
Take us through the steps that we see in your warehouse in the back.
In the warehouse, you will see vats of beer, wine, cranberry wine. This is the base and the must what we make vinegar into. From this tank, we pump into the acetator. It's ran through a Venturi valve and kept at a temperature of 30 Celsius. If it goes higher than 30, the alcohol will be distilled off and not changed to acetic acid.
Is the vinegar making process a natural process?
Yes, making vinegar is a natural process. Acetobacters are present on all fruit and vegetables. We can do a little experiment at home to show you how this works. If you could get a partial bottle of wine from your mother or father and take a couple pieces of spaghetti and put them into the bottle, and then take a tissue paper to stop any foreign objects from going inside, but not too tightly, leave it in there loose. After 1 month, you'll see a film on the top of the bottle. This is the acetobacters are starting to grow. And a month after that, you'll have vinegar for your salad.
So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start working on our main entree for this evening. And what we're going to do is an Ontario lamb sirloin with some celery root and parsnip puree and some fresh farm gate veg. We're going to start by cleaning down this celery root. I'll do this one because it's a little bit of a tougher vegetable. It's kind of got the texture of ginger, but the flavor of celery. So I'm going to clean it down quick. We'll cut it up. It's very nice to cook with, and it's a nice replacement for using actual stick celery. So what we're going to do is we're going to cook this down in a bit of 35% cream with the parsnips, which I've already cleaned for us, and a bit of vanilla.
You have to be really careful when you're dealing with knives.
Yes, you have to be very careful. Then, back of the knife goes in. So we're gonna put that in here. We're gonna put a little bit of this parsnip in as well. And we will add a bit of 35% cream to that. We're gonna cook this out over a nice low flame for about 45 minutes. Now this veg are the heirloom carrots and French green beans. These particular vegetables come from my farm in Niagara on the lake. So we're gonna take our lamb sirloin here, a little salt and pepper, and then we'll flip them over, salt and pepper the other side. So we're probably gonna sear this on each side for about 3 to 5 minutes. So now that that's got a nice golden brown on it, we're gonna take that to the oven for a few minutes. So the next step for this is we're gonna start getting our vegetables ready for this dish. And if one of you ladies would like to put a little bit of salt in there, and we could probably start with the carrots because they're gonna take probably 2, maybe 3 minutes longer than the green beans. So what I did earlier is I made a little bit of ravigote because ravigote is one of those things that it gets a little bit better with age. So what this is gonna be is it's gonna be a little bit of an accent for the lamb. If you wanna add the green beans now, They'll probably take 2.5 minutes to cook. So I just got the lamb out of the oven, ladies. Looks like it's cooked to a beautiful medium rare. So what we're gonna do is just let that rest for a minute. We're just gonna make sure that the puree has no lumps in it. So make sure you're holding the pan because we don't want the pan sliding around on you. Perfect, perfect. Take the back of the spoon, just give it any way you want, any design you want on there. Perfect. We're gonna salt that just lightly.
Turn it around a bit. And right here?
Yep.
Right here?
Sure. I'll cut the lamb because he's gonna be a little warm. I always cut lamb and duck with the fat side down. So we're gonna cut them nice and thin across the grain. Take it and start like that and just continue the pattern kind of like that so it's a fan.
Okay. It's finished.
Here we have a little bit of lamb jus. What I will do is just take a spoonful of it and right across the top of the lamb. Beautiful. Now the only other thing that I like to do sometimes at the restaurant is just to add a bit of a visual effect to it. We just take a little bit and we'll just drizzle it around. Then we're gonna put the ravigote on. Perfect. And that is our lamb sirloin dish.
A very unusual point of interest on the Niagara Parkway is the Niagara floral clock. The clock was inspired by a similar clock in Princess Street Gardens, Edinburgh, Scotland. And standing here, we were amazed by its size. The hour hand is 14.5 feet, the minute hand 17.5 feet, and the second hand is 21 feet long. Their combined weight is 1,250 pounds. As many as 16,000 carpet bedding plants are used to create each unique clock face design, which is changed twice a year. Behind the clock, there is a tower that houses Westminster chimes that ring out every quarter hour to greet visitors. What are we making now? Dessert?
Yeah, we're gonna make a rhubarb jelly, and we're gonna top that with a little bit of maple cream and some maple sugar and a little chocolate ganache. So we're gonna take the ends off and the tips off of maybe this much of it. We're just gonna cut through them.
Wow.
Don't have to be cut very nicely because they're going in here. They're gonna cook in a bit of sugar and water. So we're gonna add a little bit of water, probably a quarter of a cup. We're gonna put about a quarter of a cup of sugar in. We're gonna bring this up to temperature.
How long will it cook?
About 20 minutes. And we're gonna temper a little bit of cream in here. So if you wanna pour that into here. And we're gonna use the heat of the cream to melt the chocolate. I'm gonna pour this over the chocolate.
Okay. It's already melting.
Yep. And get the large chunks to melt out of this, and it should come into a nice, smooth chocolate. So we're gonna take this little bit of cold water right here. We're gonna take our gelatin. What we do is bloom these in cool water. So what you do is you give it a little feel, and you can feel that it's starting to soak up a lot of the water, and a lot of the stiffness is coming out of it. Meanwhile, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our rhubarb, and we're gonna pour it into here. So now we will add the gelatin to this.
Okay.
Just drop it right in. So we're gonna take this right now and a little bit of 35% cream. We are gonna whisk this with a little bit of maple syrup, and this is gonna go on top of our gelée. So if you wanna pour, just drizzle in just a little bit that's perfect. What I did was I put a little bit of rhubarb gelée into glasses last night, let it set up in the fridge. This is the 35% cream that I whipped with maple syrup. So what we're gonna do is take our chocolate ganache, we're gonna put a little bit of this on there, spread that in a nice thin layer. And now because the rhubarb gelée is nice and cool, it's gonna set that ganache up very nicely and quickly. I whipped this to a soft peak because we want it to be able to pour in. We're gonna put a little bit of maple sugar on it. So we have some nice chunks of maple sugar to go on there.
Let's try some. Mmm, it's really good. This is fantastic. We've explored the modern day food traditions around Niagara Falls, and there's no better place to explore the history of the region and its foods in Old Fort Niagara. The geography of Fort Niagara is what has made it such an important location for centuries. 3 flags fly here each day to symbolize the 3 nations that once controlled the fort: the French, the British, and the Americans. And while the fort has not seen armed conflict in almost 200 years, it has served as a place to train troops and learn about its rich history. We're heading inside to a 1762 bakehouse at the French castle to get an overview of the historical foods eaten here from Old Fort Niagara's foodway experts.
We're here in the bakehouse, and I'm going to be teaching you a little bit about what they would have eaten here at Old Fort Niagara. A lot of what you see here is what officers would have eaten, and so it's a lot fancier than what the common soldiers would have eaten.
What's in here?
That is pea soup. That's a little more common for your soldiers to eat. There's a lot of vegetables. There's some onion in there. It looks like there's a little bit of carrot. Now, if it was the middle of winter time, when they didn't have too many provisions, that would have been just the peas and just the salted pork that was in there, as well as water to make this stew up. So it wasn't very good in the winter time, but it was a lot better once the growing season happened. This is a dressing. It doesn't look like the dressings that we have today, does it? No. Many people think dandelion is a weed now. It was actually brought over here. This is salted pork, onion, and vinegar, and it goes right on top. You can see I've put a little bit more. Vinegar helps preserve things. These are pickled onions. It's vinegar and a bunch of spices, and then you put these little onions in it, and it sits for a while, and it pickles them.
Pearl onions.
Yeah, can you smell the vinegar?
Oh, yeah, I can.
Yeah, so this is another way of preserving things as well as the salt. Another way of preserving items is to make jellies and jams and things like that. This is called apple butter. So it's basically a way of preserving your apples into a nice kind of breakfast smearable item. And we have a really popular item, schmearkäse, and it's a cheese. It's like you make cheese from yogurt. Stick your finger in there. Would you like to try the apple butter as well? Yeah, it's kind of like cream cheese.
It's kind of like goat cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
It does taste really good. Like applesauce.
Kind of like applesauce,
But sweeter.
now we're gonna move on to some of the Native American food that a lot of our natives would have eaten while they were here at Fort Niagara and also around in this area. This is cornbread. You take this type of corn, and then what you do, you boil a whole bunch of water, and then you actually add hardwood ashes to it. Then you put your corn into that and let it boil for a while. And then you grind it up, and then you can add kidney beans or some other things, and you make this cake. So this is a Native American cornbread.
What can you show us about bread making?
You're gonna take your dough, and the first thing that you're gonna do is to fold it in half, just like that. And then you're gonna take your hand, kind of use your hand to press it down. Now that we've got it well mixed, I'm just gonna press it down a little bit, and then I'm gonna kind of spin it and work it with your hands kind of at the same time, and just kind of form it into a nice little ball there. Okay. And then once it's about double in size, what you're gonna do next is place it on a peel. Just pick that up and put it right on the peel here.
Thank you.
And we can actually go ahead and put it in the oven, right like that.
Wow,
That looks pretty good.
We've had a wonderful time learning about Niagara Falls and the history of the foods that have sustained its local people for generations. We've also loved learning about the locally produced foods that go into creating the area's delicious flavors. We'd like to thank everyone on both sides of the U.S.-Canadian border for making our visit so memorable. The natural beauty of the falls and the fact that they are shared between 2 neighboring countries makes this geographic region twice as good. For more information about the dishes prepared on today's show, including a listing of ingredients and the recipes, please visit us at twiceasgoodshow.com.
Twice as Good with Hadley and Delaney is brought to you by Mila. Imma Besser, forever better. Mila. And by Cuties. Cute you can eat. Cuties. And by KitchenWorks. Wherever we go, that's where the party's at. KitchenWorks.